Welcome to this, hopefully this the first of the series webinar about mental health. And in this, we will talk about one of the, most common and one of the most dangerous mental health problem, which is depression. Uh, Statistically, almost, you know, 1 in 5 Indian is likely to have depression throughout his life, like at one point in life. So it's very prevalent disease. And today we have Dr. Pradeep Joshi, who is a renowned psychiatrist, practicing since very long, and not only practicing it, but he also has trained and educated a lot of people about depression and how to treat it, how to identify and all. So today we will be discussing with him and getting from him the latest knowledge about what is depression, how to go about understanding it, helping the people who are depressed, taking care of the depressed person, and preventing ourselves from depression. So this will be the key takeaway. We are also joined by Satish Mandora. Satish Mandora is an emotional intelligence coach, trainer, facilitator, and he has transformed more than 10,000 lives through his training and coaching services. He has worked with people who have been taking care of the depressed people. He has worked with people who are on verge of depression, and he has an expertise into basically preventing the preventive measures of depression. So welcome Satish, welcome Dr. Joshi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have kept it very kind of conversational and interactive session. We want it to be like that. So for those who have joined like now, I would just repeat the basic rules. Keep your microphones muted. Use the chat box to put your questions in the chat box. I will ask those questions. I have a series of questions to start with, which are basically collected from the questions that you gave. So what I did, basically, I put those questions thematically, and I'm going to ask those questions to Dr. Joshi, and we will start from there. But before, let me just put it also on the live cast, because I promised many people that it will be on the YouTube live. Just a minute, let me do it quickly, and then voila, done. Okay. Yeah. So, Dr. Joshi, first question to you.
Okay.
The word depression is used nowadays for everything. I have heard some kids even saying that, yeah, I got depressed, daddy doesn't understand me.
Yeah.
So what really is depression? Is it one thing or is it multiple? There are different kinds of depression. What so, Dr. Joshi, first question.
Yeah.
Okay. The word depression is used nowadays for everything. I have heard some kids even saying that, yeah, I got depressed, daddy doesn't understand me. Actually the life cost. So what really is depression? Is it one thing or is it multiple? Dr. Joshi, first one, the word depression. Okay.
So I can start?
Yes, please. Sorry for that.
Yes, that's true, Vijay, because depression word is being used very vaguely, and it is used for so many situations. Even children use it, even adults use it, and I have seen even doctors and general physicians using depression in with a wrong meaning. Because as such, basically, knowledge about mental health is so low in general public and even in general physicians up to that level that these terms are used erroneously. What I will like to say that sometimes when people use depression word, they actually mean anxiety. Sometimes when they use depression word, they actually mean psychosis actually. And that sort of things are very commonly seen in at least we see in our practice also. But what is depression? Depression is a low mood. And depression as such, when we say that I am feeling low, doesn't actually mean depression. Because we must understand there is a difference between affect and mood. What is affect and what is mood? Affect is a short-lasting condition of your emotions, while mood is long-lasting condition of your emotions. And we always feel bad or low many times for something which goes wrong. If I am scolded by someone, I feel bad, I feel low, and but that goes away. So this is not a pathological thing, and this is not actually depression. It is just affect, it is the just emotion at that particular time. Then depression again is defined in so many different ways, because even in clinical setup, even for psychiatrists, depression is defined in a different ways. Because depression as such, you will understand that when you call it depression, even the classification system says that there are so many types of depression. And common depressions are, some depressions are endogenous depression, some depressions are reactive depression. What do you mean by endogenous and reactive depression? Endogenous depression is a depression something coming from within your body. So it is from within. And reactive depression is depression which is caused because of some external factors. That is generally called as reactive depression, and endogenous depression is that. Again, there is two types of depression which are commonly seen. That is neurotic depression and psychotic depression. These are the terms used. Neurotic depression is usually milder depression. Neurosis is basically is a term which is used for the people who are still in touch with the reality. And psychotic depression is a term which is used for severe depression, where the person is not in touch with reality, and he may get even delusions and sometimes hallucinations also. So this is one again different type of depression. Again, there are certain things that primary depression, secondary depression. You may get secondary depression because of certain other illnesses. You have physical illness and that is accompanied by depression. Then you may have depression because of as a side effect of certain drugs, and that is called as secondary depression. So these are different types of depression. But what is exactly depression? In psychiatry, which we follow about the classification method, and that is usually Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is published by American Psychiatric Association, that is DSM-5 is the latest one. There, what is their definition of depression? There they say that the symptoms must be present at least for 2 weeks. At least for 2 weeks. That is the time duration over there. And there are certain symptoms, and minimum symptoms should be there, like this depressed mood should be there for almost all the time, for almost every day. Then diminished interest in your pleasure activities, whatever your pleasure activities were. You used to like seeing movies, or you used to like hearing music, and now you don't get much fun out of that. Then there is a insomnia, that is sleep disorders. Maybe insomnia or maybe hypersomnia also can be a symptom of depression. Then you may get agitation also. Some people get psychomotor retardation, some get restless. Then there is a feeling of fatigue, low energy, feeling of worthlessness, feeling of guilt, and sometimes even a feeling of suicidal ideas. And these are the recurrent thoughts of death, suicidal ideas, and these are the things, at least there are 5 of these 9 to 10 things, at least minimum 5 should be present there. Then you can diagnose the case as a case of depression according to DSM-5 as such. Usually we say that DSM depression is a cognitive triad, particularly when you see that cognitive therapy, then it is a triad where you feel bad about yourself, you feel bad about your the whole world, and you feel bad about the future also. So this is a cognitive triad where the depression is seen. So these are the usually symptoms by which you can stamp the person as a depressed person.
So what I understand from this is that number one, depression can be termed as depression only if it is like 2 week long symptoms.
Yeah. Yes.
It has to be multiple symptoms. So
Yes.
all the symptoms you described, there should be at least 5 symptoms.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in another way of looking at it is it's a triad, like feeling bad about self, world, and future.
Yes.
So if all that is there, then it can be termed as depression.
Yes.
Now let us enlighten us about this. What really happens in the brain at chemical level, at hormonal level, when it goes into depression? Does depressed brain function differently than a non-depressed brain?
Yeah. Actually, there are many changes in the brain which are observed or which are we are trying to label them actually.
Mm-hmm.
The causes of depression are many. Basically, we say that the high depression is caused maybe by hereditary factor, maybe by biochemical factors, maybe by social environment, maybe by whatever you have experiences since childhood and whatever the stresses you have faced. All these things may add to the cause of depression. But nowadays we feel that there are certain biogenic amines that are very important in the which play a role in the cause of depression. And these biogenic amines are particularly initially it was considered as serotonin is the most responsible chemical or neuroamine for the depression. But now it is observed that along with serotonin, there are other amines also which play some role at least in the depression. And because as the drugs are getting developed and newer drugs are coming up, and when we study the mode of action of these drugs, we have observed that there are apart from serotonin, other receptors are also, and other neurobiogenic amines are also responsible for this depression. And then norepinephrine, dopamine, and even GABA, NMDA receptors, all these things do play a major role in this depression. Another thing is that even endocrine system plays a major role in causing depression. And naturally, it is the hypothalamus, because the boss of endocrine system is hypothalamus. So hypothalamus works, and it's again gives a problem because it controls your adrenal axis, it controls thyroid axis, it also controls cortisol axis. And with all this control from hypothalamus, it causes prone to depressive features. Even your immune system is also responsible for causing depression. We must be aware about that. Then, what are the brain imaging? Because now we see that lot of CT scan, PET scan, MRI, and all these things are easily available everywhere. Are there any changes in the depressed brain? There are many studies about that, and they have found that there are certain changes are seen, but no specific changes as such as it can be attributed to depression as a causative factor or as a result of depression. You can't. The studies have made particularly about the volume of ventricles, about the cortex volumes, and all these things are studied, but no conclusive evidence is there. We have up till now is seen. Then we must also see that genetic factors also are important. And in the genetic factors also are important for the causation of depression. Again, there are various, but only heredity cannot cause depression usually. And it is the other factors which contribute. If other factors contribute to that, then generally the person gets depression as such. Vijay.
Yeah. So there are multiple chemicals which basically play a role
Yes.
in depression. It's not like one thing that you got serotonin and then you cover, then you kind of manage that and you got it rid of.
No.
So there are, it's a complex thing, and there are multiple, including the endocrine system, which is basically
Yes.
is the hormone which regulate other bodily function. They are also related to depression.
Yeah.
There is a very interesting question here from Deepti. She's asking, like, it's related to this theme, so I'm asking it here. Is it possible that a person who is suffering from depression and doesn't know that he's depressed?
Yeah. He may not be able to say that I realize that he is depressed.
Mm-hmm.
But generally he realizes that something is wrong with him, because he is low mood, he has loss of interest in all the world, he can't get pleasure out of that. But there are some types of depression, and we call it as atypical depressions. In this atypical depression, depression is not manifested as depressed mood. It is manifested into something else, like say into bodily symptoms, and or maybe it with only sleep disorders like hypersomnia, or like eating disorders, it may, like anorexia nervosa or bulimia. In that case, person will not realize. He will say that I have only some bodily symptoms, and why I am being stamped as a depressed patient, because these are not typical depressed features over there. But ultimately, the depression has caused his even physical problems. Because his perception of the body changes, and that's why he gets those bodily symptoms.
So it is possible that in some forms of depression that the person is kind of functional otherwise, but has another symptom related to one class of symptoms of depression.
Yeah.
And in those cases, the person might find it very difficult to admit that it is.
Yes.
Because if it is anorexia nervosa, that patient will not admit that it's depression.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It happens.
So we have heard about something, a term, I think I see that here, Sushana is asking that, like high functional depression. It's referring to something like, people who are functional otherwise, but their coping mechanism is inappropriate and it is in line of depression. So in the medical science, is there any term, something like that?
No, this term is not there. High functional depression as such is not a perhaps scientific term as such. But the depression may present in various modes, as we saw that the whole spectrum of the symptoms where there are a lot of variation. That patient may be very much active, patient may be retarded, patient may not get proper sleep, or patient may get a lot of sleep, patient may have loss of appetite, and patient may have bulimia type symptoms. So there is a variation of these symptoms, and maybe that these things may happen.
Coming to the symptoms, I would appreciate it very much if you can enlighten our audience a little more about, for example, there are certain terms which are very natural to you as a medical practitioner, like bulimia type symptom.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can kindly kind of, for a lay audience, for a person, say, who is not familiar with the medical terminology, if you can put the symptoms into categories for our understanding, so that we can identify that this is
yes. I will explain both the terms, anorexia and bulimia as such. Anorexia nervosa is a term, generally is a condition generally seen in young ladies, and particularly when they are very cautious about their weight and about their looks. these girls are so cautious about their weight gain that they try to control their weight, and they reduce their food intake. They, in fact, to the extent they go to the extent that they vomit it out. They even take purgatives to flush out the things, and so that their weight should be controlled. But in the whole process, they land up in severe weight loss. They land up in severe nutritional deficiencies. They, in fact, get bedridden, but still they don't accept that now they need to start taking food. And many a time they have to feed forcefully as such. In bulimia, it is exactly the reverse picture. Here, the person starts eating a lot. He is always hungry. Anytime he starts eating, even in the night, he wakes up and starts eating. Daytime, he eats now. Even after getting up from the dining table, immediately within half an hour, he says, I am hungry, I want to eat something. And it sort of goes things like that, and he gets a lot of weight gain and this thing. That is bulimia. These are both are supposed to be ultimately depression lying behind both these conditions.
So depression can, let's say, exhibit itself into these kind of symptoms also.
Yes.
And that comes, there comes like when the person might not be aware that it is primarily depression.
Yes, that's true.
In fact, Vijay, I would just like to quickly add, because he mentioned about anorexia. I knew a client who almost was admitted on the deathbed because of this constant process of following particular ways of diet, particular ways of losing weight, heavily involved. For example, that particular client was, I'm not trying to blame a particular kind of diet. For example, keto diet that has been followed. It was so much followed that practically she actually was in ICU for almost 9 days. She touched and came back.
Yeah. It happens. Yeah.
Keto, it became Kato diet. Okay. Moving on. There are two aspects of it after, like understanding what depression is and how it reflects differently, and then what is not depression. Like, everyday mood change is not depression. If I'm I'm expecting a client to close a deal and that deal did not close, I will get sad. I will be disappointed, but it is not depression. I will come out of it. If I'm staying there for like more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and other symptoms are also then it might be termed as depression. And I think we should always seek a professional medical help before terming it as depression or not.
Well, I would like to add something. Yes. There is a normal depression, isn't it? If I fail in the examination, I must feel depressed. And if I don't feel depressed, my parents are going to feel depressed. Yes. So naturally, if there is a certain bad situation, I must feel bad. But with that depression, now I must see that, oh, why I failed? Something must be wrong with me. Something must be wrong in my preparation. So I will now prepare myself for the future, that I will not get the failure again. So this type of attitude, if is there, then it is normal depression. But if I fail in the examination and I feel depressed, and then I start feeling that I am worthless, I am useless person, I am not able to study at all, I am not worth living also, worth studying also, then that and it goes on prolonged, I can't brush up myself again, then it is a pathology, and it is a depressed feeling as such.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dr. Joshi.
Vijay, there are 3 words that I am tempted to add, as Dr. Pradeep just mentioned, that classically in depression, helplessness, hopelessness, and self-worthlessness. These are 3 key words that actually is at the heart of the psychosis of depression.
Yeah, that into that triangle of self, world, and future.
Vijay, there is also one thing about depression. There is a pathological grief as such.
Uh-huh.
When there is something bad, I have a loss of, I lose my parent or my brother or something, I feel bad and I feel depressed, and this is natural depression. But if that prolongs beyond say 2 months or so, then it is called as pathological grief, and it is as good as depressed. So grief is normal, but if it prolongs, then it is a pathological grief, which is as good as a depression thing.
Yes.
Now, just to add one more dimension, since you mentioned grief, now grief comes from the family of sadness. And a prolonged sadness ultimately will lead into depression. Is that what you're trying to tell, Dr. Pradeep?
Prolonged sadness leads to depression, no. But if the sadness prolongs,
Okay.
then it is, because sadness will not cause depression as such. If it is prolonging, then something is wrong with you, and then it is depression.
Okay.
Yeah. So coming to the cure part, so there are two things. One is that let's say someone is depressed in the family or in friend circle, and I'm taking care of that person. So as a caretaker of a depressed person, what should I be cautious of in terms of my, talking to that person, and in terms of my behavior? How can I help, a person who is depressed?
Yeah, this is a very important question, Vijay.
It was asked like 136 people who registered for this. It was like 60 of them. So it is
very important. We must understand that who are the people who are likely to be depressed. And the foremost thing about those people is the people who lack the social support. So if you have less or no social support, you are more prone to get depressed as such. So when there is you must offer support to the patient. And when you are offering support, you must not go on advising him. अरे ये क्या है, ऐसा मत करना, तू कुछ भी सोचता है, इससे क्या होता है? अरे, normally every depressed patient knows that this is wrong, but still he feels like that, isn't it? So don't advise him. You try to understand him. You encourage him to speak out. This is the first thing. You encourage him to support, offer him your shoulder to weep on. Then you also see that he is properly supported by others also. Not only one person, the family members, then even his friend circle, you should see that they are handling him properly. Another thing, relatives should be very cautious that sometimes these patients, because of they are depressed, they are reluctant to continue with the treatment because they have negative perception of their future. क्या होने वाला है? काय को ड्रग लेने का? कुछ होने वाला तो है नहीं, कुछ तो अच्छा होने वाला ही नहीं है, मेरी जिंदगी तो सब खराब है. So they start avoiding treatment also. So they must, relatives must see that they should take him to therapist very regularly and follow all the instructions from the therapist. These are the very important things as far as care of depressed patient is concerned. Then again, there are certain things that you must look after his diet. It should be proper diet. You must encourage him to do exercises. You must encourage him to involve himself in different social activities. These people are usually, it is a sort of inertia in them. These people usually don't try to get involved in different things because they only say that I don't feel like working. I don't feel like talking to anybody. I don't feel, yes, you don't feel like it, but you have to do that. Because if you want to get away from the depression as early as possible, then you must work it out. I have to tell the patients that it is a bitter medicine. And if you want to get cured, you have to swallow that bitter medicine also. Whether you feel like, you don't feel like swallowing the bitter medicine, but if you want to get cured, you must get it. So even if you don't feel like working, if you don't feel like getting involved with the people, you must do that, thinking that this is a bitter medicine and I must accept that. So you should encourage them for even this type of this thing also.
Mhm.
There is one small thought that I want to add, Vijay, because I also know that some of us, the people who joined here, are also professionals who are supporting positive psychology. Uh, and again, this is a couple of experience that I've had. At one end, as a support mechanism to the client or to somebody very close to me, I'm expected to empathize. As Dr. Pradeep rightly mentioned, that trying to become extremely empathetic with the person, we end up getting sympathetic. And that is where advising starts. That is where trying to make things very easy, that happens very naturally. Trying to ignore some symptoms happen. And at times I've also seen that the effect of that person starts affecting me also. Unknowingly, I have started creating a umbilical cord between me and him. And that person's mood starts having an impact on my personal space also. And that is where sympathizing becomes very, very difficult, not only for that person, but for me also, number one. The moment I start realizing this, what happens, the funny part is, I want to go away with it. So, rather than becoming empathetic, I try and become apathetic. And that is where the person starts feeling dry. That is where the person starts further feeling that he was one support mechanism I was banking upon and he doesn't seem to be caring for me. And to be able to remain on that empathetic age, it requires an extremely strong sense of mindfulness for my own self, that I'm not tipping the bridge, number one. And number two, I have to have an extremely strong resilience and impulse management in mind. If these two traits are not there, it will become extremely difficult for me to become a support mechanism for anybody who could be a close relative or anybody else.
Wow. Thank you so much, Satish, for explaining it so beautiful. I just put a clapping hand there. It's very nice. Yeah. Like not being sympathetic, not being apathic, but being empathic. Not advising, but understanding what is going on with the person. And the way you understand is by asking question and listening.
There is a one dictum.
Encouraging the person to do activities, engage into activities. The person will not like to do it, but if the person does it, it will be better for the person.
Yeah.
Did I get it correctly, this part?
Yeah. There is a one dictum for depressed people. When you are handling depressed people, Jnaan nahi dhyan do. Gyan mat do, dhyan do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the takeaway from it. Yes. Gyan nahi dhyan do. Very true. Very true. Yeah. So moving on from, let's say, taking care of a depressed person, what can we do to prevent? And here I think, I will expect at least equal input from Dr. Joshi and Satish from both sides, the medical side and the psychological side. Because Satish is, I think, expert at preventing depression. I don't know anybody around him who is depressed. I meet him, so I think he's very good at preventing depression. So I would like to hear from Dr. Joshi first on the medical side of preventive thing in depression. Is it possible to prevent depression? What we can do to prevent it?
Yes.
Also, I would like you to comment on the role of medicines. Some people take medicine, start taking, and then they get a little better, then they leave medicine. What are the consequences of not completing the medicine or starting the medicine? What are the side effects and all that?
Yeah. The thing is that if you want to prevent depression, we must understand that the people who get easily depressed are who lack the support system. Then those who are who have family history of depression, then those people who are usually socioeconomically from low class also. So because why socioeconomically low? Because generally their social support system is low, and hence there is a problem. Not as a socioeconomical status as such is doesn't cause them depression, but because support system is quite weak in that section, and hence there is likelihood of depression as such. So let us concentrate on these people. Another population which is more prone for depression is elderly people nowadays. Elderly people, particularly living lone lives with no children around, children staying away, or loss of who are alone, who have lost already their spouse and partner, then these people are more prone for depression. Nowadays, the population which is prone for depression, again, we have to take care, is the young children, particularly the students who are during the competitive age, like in around 12th or in professional courses and all that, that particular age is very nowadays prone for depression. So we have to look after them. And we have to advise them about how to not to get depressed. First thing is, you should encourage them to have some hobby. They should engage themselves with something. Either they have got family, these things, they have got work things, but apart from family and work, they should have some hobby where they can find relaxation, and there is no family tension and no job tensions they have. So hobby is one thing which always helps them, even for elderly people. In elderly people, even if they are living alone, they should have something, some purpose. When you are, but this problem happens particularly in elderly people, that they live in a vacuum, because they don't find any purpose what to do in next day. So if you don't have any purpose for the next day, when you get up from the bed and you have nothing to do, then you are bound to be prone to depression. So every day you must have something to do, some job, some purpose, and hence I advise them to usually get involved in some social activity, where which activity their physical ability will allow them to do. Then relaxation is a must thing. Even for executives and all those things, all those people, I advise that they should have some relaxation. And what sort of relaxation they should have? I advise them that if they are playing some games, that's best thing. But the games should be a team work as such, not some one indoor game type, or only game one or two people. There should be at least 4, 6 people meeting regularly, because there you can have some chachugiri, what I call it, ha ha, he, who, or even this type of time pass you must have at least for half an hour every day, and that refreshes you. And this sort of time, this type of behavior will keep you away from the depression. You must take care of your diet also. You must see that your diet is proper. You must also have exercise. And even for relaxation, I always advise yoga, and particularly I advise yoga nidra or meditation also for some people, so that they get relaxed. As far as medicine are concerned, no medicine for prevention of depression, nothing. But for if you are depressed, then there are medicines which are really useful. Initially, we had medicines which used to have a lot of side effects, and hence with these medicines were looked down, and people used to tell us that, oh, you are only giving us sleeping tablets, you are making us sleep, and it is not useful, and they used to drop out. But nowadays, with newer medicines which are very, very potential and have very less side effects, the things have improved a lot. And even for working people, they can have a good antidepressants, and they are helpful. The problem is when after taking our, when we start medicines, none of the antidepressant works within days. It doesn't work within 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, like some paracetamol, and you have fever and you take paracetamol and immediately fever is gone. You have to wait for the effect of the drugs, and that is usually around 2 weeks. So sometimes the patients don't have that much patience, and even the relatives sometimes don't have the patience. So we have to explain to them that they will have to wait for effect of the medicines. They shouldn't drop out from that. Another problem with dropout is they feel good and they now feel that, oh no, now it is not necessary. I need not take any drugs anymore because I am now all right. But this type of half incomplete treatment is likely to give them relapses, and more the relapses, then there are the chances of recovery gets low, and hence they should take medicines as advised by doctors. Sometimes they get side effects, then contact the doctor that you have such and such side effects. Doctor may help you in getting relieved from the side effects, may change the doses, may change the drug, and you will have a normal life. So whatever difficulty problem is, you should consult a doctor, and you should then, according to his suggestion, stick to that.
So from this, what I'm getting is that there is like no one medicine which works for depression for all patients. So it is
No,
depends on the person.
yes, there is a difference. There is always difference. Many times we start with one medicine, one group of medicine, then we have to change that and to another type of medicine, and this sort of things do happen. This is very common. Perhaps now people think that we should now classify depression according to the drug type they are responding to that.
Oh, we have that problem in psychology also. You would find intelligence on the basis of what kind of intelligence the tests are measuring. So,
Vijay, with your permission, I would like to just take one cue ahead because you beautifully placed one very important thought. And this is one small exercise that I do in most of my workshops. You know, I always say life is not about time management, life is about energy management. And what Dr. Pradeep was essentially trying to say was that you must be able to have a surplus energy of your life to work upon. Now, there was a very simple experiment that was done in the corporate world, that if you make a list of all the things that you are doing, right from getting up in the morning, the way you snooze your alarm, till the end of the day when you put off the remote of the TV. And if you classify it, if you make a list of all the activities and you classify them into two dimensions, one, things I want to do, and second, things I have to do. Research says that in the corporate world, in the kind of environment all of us are living, almost 18% of the things are the things that I want to do, and rest of them, the 82 percentile, are the things that I have to do. And naturally, the things that I have to do are the energy takers, and the things that I want to do are the energy givers. And we just tell people to improve this percentile from 18 to about 25 to 30, 32. If you're able to do that, trust me, your energy management is in place. And that is where hobbies or purpose or that social work, the dimension that he was talking of, they come into picture.
Yeah.
As he was mentioning about being able to have a team sport. I mean, the badminton group where I play, you have visited with me.
It's amazing group.
That group on WhatsApp, we have called it as Lifeline. And that really, in real terms, is Lifeline for us. So just wanted to do this exercise of want tos and have tos, and you will be amazed the kind of differential you can bring into your life.
Thank you, Satish. This was very, very helpful.
Yeah, very good.
To the energy management dimension rather than working on the time management part. Yeah. There are two very interesting and very pertinent questions to this. Is that suicidal thoughts and prolonged depression? Do they have a kind of invariable link? What he means by it's a question by Manoj. Says that is it suicide a logical outcome of untreated depression?
Yeah.
or it is one of the outcomes?
Suicide is a severe form of depression. In severe form of depression, you get suicidal thoughts.
Mhm.
And as the depression gets worsened, a person gets suicidal ideas and start thinking about the death and life after death, and then ultimately he lands up in planning the suicides and how to go about suicide, and all those things start happening. The thing is that suicide, if glorified, then depression and it gets worsened. You know, recently there was a suicide by a celebrity, and
Mhm.
with that celebrity, you find that many people have after that committed suicide also.
Mhm.
So these type of things happen even in our this one village. There was a one 15-year-old boy who committed suicide after watching everything about the suicide, about that celebrity, that about his life, and he committed suicide and how he committed suicide and what his friends were telling and what was happening, and all sort of discussion throughout the day. Next day morning, when his parents left for farming, he committed suicide by hanging the way he had that celebrity had hanged himself. So these are the suicides are very in the depressed patient. We have to look for the suicidal thoughts, and these suicidal thoughts are very important thing to manage, to be managed, and very important. So suicidal thoughts are part of depression, of a severe, generally of a severe depression. Actually what happens many times, even normal people get fleeting suicidal thoughts. चला इससे तो मरना अच्छा है, ऐसा कभी कभी मन में आ जाता है,
Yes.
but they overcome that immediately. They
Mhm.
don't get carried away with that thought,
Mhm.
and they understand अरे ये तो ऐसे इसमें मैंने सोचा था,
Mhm.
and they realize that it is not a reality in the world. But if they persist, if they start acting on that, and if they work for that, then it is a suicide. And suicidal is a serious thing, and we must look after that. We must look after for
Mhm.
clues, because no suicide is generally without clues.
Mhm.
Every suicidal person generally before committing suicide leaves behind certain clues. He talks about death, he starts showing interest about life after death, he starts preparing his will, he starts giving suggestion to his family about you must how you will be able to cope up without me, and this sort of things he start preparing these things. Sometimes even he roughly writes down the suicidal notes also. So we must be careful and watch about these things in depressed patients, because that is one particular important point perhaps I missed in mentioning in previous our discussion. But this is one of the most important thing that we must look for and help these people.
So we should look for clues and not let kind of situation reach to that point.
Yeah.
So what I get from your depression as answer to this guy's question, Manoj's question, is that uh, an untreated depression has high risk of committing suicide,
Yes.
leads to high risk.
Yes.
There is another related question to this, is that there is a depression which is part of the bipolar disorder, in
Yes.
which you get manic and depressive phase.
Yes.
The question is that, is it curable, or it's something which the person has to live with?
uh, you can control these symptoms, but
Mhm.
it is usually what happens because there are frequent mood swings.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, what happens if it starts in the young age, as the age advances, these swings, frequent mood swings, are become more common.
Mhm.
So you have to take precaution that there should be no relapses or no swings, and there are very effective drugs which at least prolong your normal period in between those swings,
Mhm.
or give less severe attacks for the depression or the mania, and hence you will have to continue with that medicine. It is, we compare that with something like blood pressure or diabetes. You have to live with that. You have to take medicines regularly. You have to monitor your blood pressure. You have to monitor your blood sugar. In the same way, you have to monitor your effect with help of the drugs as such.
Mhm.
There are very effective drugs for this now.
Mhm. So with the current medical practices, there are quite effective drugs which can basically prolong the normal period and also reduce
Yes,
the intensity of that.
intensity of that. Yeah.
Yeah, in case if they are not able to kind of cure it fully 100%.
Yeah.
It can be very much manageable with the drugs, right? This is what I got from you. Okay. Satish, now there are two quite important questions from the audience side.
Please.
There is one which is very tricky, psychological. It's by Ranjana. Is there an underlying expectation in the depressed person that people should take care of me, and a longing for a better life?
See, it will be very difficult for me to give you an answer in yes and no. And I don't want to become quite political by saying depends. Trust me, because the more you start,
You have not been into HR or psychology. Otherwise, first thing you will say, it depends.
correct. So when you deep dive with people, I mean that has been my experience in most of my coaching engagements also. That when a person comes to me for any kind of a challenge, 9 out of 10 times that challenge is very, very superficial. What comes out is completely different than what was the reason for us to start the discussion was. This is something that most of our coaches must have realized themselves. I mean, going by the Stokes theory, all of us have the need of strokes. There is a positive stroke, there is a negative stroke, but a no stroke is more difficult, and that is where people say that the opposite of love is not hatred but indifference. And yes, all of us have this innate need of being taken care of, and especially a person who is going through a rough patch where he's feeling neglected, where he is hopeless, and especially the point of self-worthlessness. For self-esteem to be higher, when you have somebody interested in you, that actually gives you a very strong positive power. I mean, taking simple cues from our management lessons, that what is appreciated gets appreciated. Lot of times, especially in the Southeast Asian countries and in the Indian subcontinent, we see that how to take an appreciation is also not very easy for most of us. We do not know how to take an appreciation also. So appreciation and that you are worthy and that I'm interested to get elevated is a need certainly for people. In most of the cases, forget about a depressed person alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first take on the question that you have. I hope I've been able to give you a judicious answer.
Yeah, I think that's quite, it brings a lot of clarity. Yeah. Is that it's an essential need in all of us as human beings, not particularly related to depressed people or people who come into depression. In some form, it is possible that it is, expressing it through way of depression, but then it is not like depression-related need or symptom. Yeah.
One thing at the same time, if I have understood that the person I'm talking to is generally, I mean, I will not use the word depressed from the clinical perspective now, but generally in that state where he's not happy or he's feeling worthless about him, trying to give pseudo support also can become a little difficult at times, because internally he knows that I'm not meaning what he's trying to say.
Uh-huh.
So, that pseudo appreciation also will not be, and pseudo appreciation, it comes from here, it doesn't come from here.
Mm-hmm.
So, appreciation. So, even those people are intelligent enough to know that he's not meaning what he's saying. So, authenticity is really important. And that is where probably I heard Pradeep Dada talking sometime last, Dr. Pradeep, he mentioned that just telling that person, "Arey chhod, ye koi tarika hota hai kya sochne ka, marne varne ki baat koi karta hai kya?" At that time, I actually need to step out and say, "Aapke man mein ye khayal aa rahe hain? Can you tell me more about it?" That becomes a more important question at that time.
Right. And that brings me to the second aspect of this, which I wanted to specifically prick your experience on. As Dr. Joshi said, when it becomes glorified, through some celebrity committing suicide or something like big person. Uh, what happens? What happens in the psyche of people? There is always this trend we observe that when some big person commits suicide, there is a stream of suicides following. What
Yeah.
happens psychologically? What is the psychology of this pandemic of depression?
See, I mean, first let me answer to the best of my capacity. But yeah, all of us have subconsciously created role models within us, and in those role modeling, it becomes to an extent where I am hijacked by every single thing that the person is doing, not being able to apply my rationale to identify that what is right and what is not right. That is where people tend to get drifted away, and that's an extremely strong sign of getting carried away. And it's, to me, it is less of a depression but more of an impulsive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to correct me, Dr. Joshi?
It is a sort of hero worshipness.
Yes.
The thing is that we always find that particularly my observation is, particularly this phenomenon is very common in South India, where a celebrity, yeah, like a hero, actor, actress, or a great politician commits, dies, or has some basically lands up in trouble. So many people starts committing suicide and this thing because we worship them. And this worshipping a person is a tendency, particularly what we see, as Satish rightly said, that in this particular region that we worship the person. Now the thing is that uh, the person which I worship, then whatever he does is best thing. I feel that everything he is doing is 100% correct and perfect. I don't understand that whatever he is ultimately a human being, and he is also prone to make mistakes. So when particularly this thing, when people, so many people loved Sushant, they appreciated him very much. They feel that he commit suicide. Oh, how is this? Then suicide must be something that which even I can do. If he is so successful, he had no problems, and still he is committing suicide, and I have so many problems. So committing suicide is a good thing. That is the way, that is my interpretation becomes, and then I follow that. So this worshipping a person as if he is 100% perfect person is a wrong psyche, in particularly in our area in Indian, and that is more common in South India. That's what I observe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just a small extension of what you just mentioned, Dr. Pradeep. I mean, whenever a child comes and shows his mark sheet to his parents,
Yes.
the first thing they see is where is the marks less. So finding out faults and saying that it is not okay to fail, is it somehow ingrained in the psychology of the person from day one that making a mistake is something that I will become vulnerable to, and it is not good to make a mistake? Is that kind of a psychology unknowingly being developed amongst us?
Yeah, ultimately what we have experiences right from the childhood, and what are the values which are put on us, the way our superego develops, it is most important thing. And hence when the parents are naturally, what happens, as you correctly said, if I scored 90% marks, my parents are not happy. They say that the neighboring boy has 96, 94%, and why you have 90%? But I have 90% is not a bad thing. But this we don't realize. What we feel that this is they feel that this is encouragement. If I say that 90% is not enough, then he will put in more efforts, and then he will go to 92, 94, 96 gradually. But in fact, it is a sort of discouragement to the child that even if I put up lot many efforts, still I am not able to satisfy my parents, And this my being not able to satisfy parents is a very negative thing for that particular child, and that gives him a feeling of worthlessness and a feeling and a depression also.
Thank you. We have well passed our time by 1 minute up to now, but there are many questions, but but I would like to just take two last questions if you
Vijay, with your permission, Vijay, with your permission, do I have the liberty of choosing one question that I see here from Darshana?
Yes, I wanted to ask that only as last question. Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, then you ask the question.
Yeah. It's about self-care for those who take care of the depressed. So how to handle the stress of a mental health worker after counseling a depressed client?
So if I was to go first in this, and which I would want to, I mean, it's very important for us to cut the umbilical cord. They always say that the presence of a guru is not by being with the person. Actually, the guru should be able to let the person learn on his own, and he should not become the reason for him to do things. That's one of the first important thing that we need to learn as coaches or as counselors, number one. Number two, yes, all the things that are required for us in terms of maintaining our energy, have a hobby, have a sport, have your immunity in place, eat well, sleep well, be extremely cautious about your physical health, mental health you already would be doing. At times it's always good to be coached or being supported by somebody. It's good to have a mentor for yourself also. The best of the coaches have their own coaches also. So I presume these are a few of the important things. I mean, if I ask about my personal experience, it is absolutely a non-negotiable part of my life that I would spend at least hour to 2.5 hours every day, either on my badminton court and my gymnasium. So these are two non-negotiables for me. Being able to sit across and go and sit with friends, laugh with them, party with them is something which has to happen with me. Before the pandemic, watching every single movie with a couple of good friends was a part of my, of my social structure. And lastly, I also became a very, inspired Rotarian, the same way Dr. Pradeep Joshi is, way back from 1999. So being able to give back is something that can also give you a lot of support mechanism, and all these things put together help us to be disconnected at the same time connected to any kind of clientele that we deal with. Something that you would like to add?
Yeah, certainly. There are two things I would like to add, because one has to develop ability to switch off from your room, consulting room, and while going to your home environment, you must be able to switch yourself off, and you should not carry the burden of all the whatever you have heard throughout the day to the family. That is disaster for yourself and also for your family also. Another thing, just a small thing I would like to add, which this was the advice my PG teacher, my teacher for MD, who was Dr. Mrs. Master from Pune. She had told me that, doctor, you must have a life apart from psychiatrist. Psychiatrist से भी अलग तुम्हें life होना चाहिए. And yes, I realized that it really helped me in at least keeping myself sane.
I must give one incident here to Vijay.
How to do self-care for a person who has been
Vijay, I'm aware about the time, but I still want to bring forth one point about Dr. Pradeep Joshi. And this I've actually written in my book also. You know my book, Why the Honda Seller Refused to Sell. And Dr. Pradeep Joshi used to be a very active badminton player earlier. And then he used to do walkings most of the time. And I used to see him walking down the street. And one day I just met him across and I asked him, I've not seen you walking for the past few days. What happened? He said, Satish, I have stopped doing everything that I consider as work now. So that was such a simple statement, but very, very profound. He knew what is work and what is not. And I think that's the reason he is still full of so much of wisdom and jovial nature in himself.
So one last question, I want to now close, but people are still asking and they are still there. So one last thing, this is asked by at least 10 members in the chat itself, is it possible to treat depression without medicine?
Yes, it is possible. But there are certain criteria which whether without medicine you should go just for counseling and not take treatment as such, not take drugs as such. The thing is that the person which you choose for non-pharmacological treatment should be cooperative, should be understanding. He must cooperate with the therapist. Then he should understand the principles of that therapy. Second thing is that there are certain symptoms which you should avoid treating only by counseling or psychotherapy. If you have suicidal ideas, don't treat it only by counseling. If usually the person who is very rather than anxious is retarded, psychomotor retardation is there, don't treat him with counseling, treat him with drugs, because there are more effective drugs as for this particular thing. Those patients who have genetic loading, that is, if there is a family history of depression in them, don't treat them for counseling, treat them with medicine only. And these are the certain things that when you choose the patient, you must see that if the patient wants that, I don't want any medicine and I want only this thing, yes, he can. But you should see that he is a proper candidate for that type of treatment.
So what I'm getting from here is that it is possible, but you have to be very careful in selecting who.
Yeah.
It is not possible for everybody. We cannot say blanket that it can be done without also.
Yeah.
In the practical dimension, Vijay, it is always good to have a opinion from a psychiatrist. If you feel that
was my second, who decides? So it is the person who is trained and qualified in that. That's the person who decides, and not the person who is suffering, or not the person who is supporting that person.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. We kind of well beyond 10 minutes of our existing time, which would be like, if I calculate in percentage, it will be even more.
You're a person guy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joshi, for taking time from
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
We are very, very grateful to you. Thank you, Satish, as always, being the best friend and supporter and all the well-wisher of IIBP. Thank you very much. On behalf of IIBP, I would also like to thank all the participants who came here, who gave their, who asked such, very practical, very relevant question, and asked all of us, engaged all the time. Thank you very much to you all. Before we close, can I request all the participants to just turn on their video for 2 minutes? I want to click some screenshots just to keep as a memory for myself. And of course, it will be available to all the participants also. We can send, we are going to send a follow-up email to all of you with the summary of this discussion, and also the helpline numbers of people who are affiliated with IIBP providing mental health support. So we can do that. So thank you very much. And yeah, I have taken 2 nice screenshots from this. Thanks a lot. And hope to see you again sometime. We are going to prolong this series. We are going to have talk and discussion on mental health aspect, not only depression, but on many other aspects with the experts in the field, so that you have the knowledge which is latest and which is practical. So you will get information on that by email. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks a lot and have a nice evening. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you, Vijay.